15 minutes past 8 Central African time. And we're going to be jumping straight into the show. Yesterday, really crazy images that we all saw. South Africa, I think we can all agree, reached a moment that many had feared and that many had anticipated. Thousands marched across the country demanding tougher action against illegal immigration. Well, much of the day passed without the widespread chaos that had been predicted, not saying that there were not notable cases of anarchy and destruction, but I think it doesn't resemble some of the scenes that we saw in previous years. There were pockets of violence, businesses were targeted, foreign nationals remain fearful, and questions are now being asked about who was really in control of South Africa's streets, what was really happening on the ground. I read an opinion piece that was published yesterday, and today I wanna reflect on it. June 30 June 2026, and how it will be remembered in South Africa, and whether the South African state essentially ceded power to rabble rousers, raising very uncomfortable questions about the rule of law, around political leadership, and just the precedent this sets for the future. And joining us now is political and economic analyst Dr. Dale McKinley. Doc, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you on Salam Media.
Good morning, Salelo, and to your listeners and viewers. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure is all ours. I want to jump right into it. First and foremost, if you can just reflect on the events of yesterday. I think the country is slowly reconfiguring. Things are not completely back to normal, considering the state of affairs, but I think it'll be important to just look back, reflect on yesterday. What did you make of June 30th?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is to say that, as you mentioned in your introductory remarks, that it is a positive thing that there wasn't a huge loss of life, massive destruction of property, and so forth, as had been predicted by some. I think that was at least a positive thing. That I mean, as you say, there were many incidences, and those should not be dismissed, but in the overall context, I think what the 30th of June tells us, or two or three different particular things. One is that we have a state that is, I would say, in some ways rudderless. I think the state has been incredibly reactive to the developments leading up to this day. Where, as you mentioned, it sort of, I wouldn't say it ceded its authority, but I would say it genuflected towards a very minority group of people who happen to be very loud, who happen to be very threatening, and who are acting generally outside the law. And that's concerning, because if the state is going to genuflect towards them and basically sort of try to accommodate people who are working outside the law and who are clearly, it's not about their opinions. It's not about having a debate about immigration policy, and they have every right to express their opinions, and they have every right to march and to protest. But what occurred in the weeks leading up to yesterday was something very different. The reason why there were thousands and thousands of Malawians, whether it's at Sherwood or here in Johannesburg, and many Zimbabweans and other foreign nationals fleeing our country, is because they were fearful. They were fearful of their lives. They were being evicted. They were being assaulted. They were being told that if they didn't leave, bad things were going to be happening to them. That climate and culture of fear was what led to yesterday. And that is very deeply concerning. The second thing that it tells us is that there is a political weaponization of the immigration issues, very serious immigration issues that we have in our country, not to be dismissed, and people's anger and frustration at their socioeconomic realities. Again, something that should not be dismissed and something that should be taken seriously. But the political weaponization of that is what occurred in the lead up to yesterday. And what we saw yesterday was a group of individuals, I would argue, mostly from particular political formations or formations that come out of those political parties, and using this as a weapon around local government elections, around trying to get support and around trying to fight battles that have nothing to do with immigration, but have to do with internal politics within our country and power within our country. So I would say that that's what yesterday, in a nutshell, told us.
Thank you for that. I think that synopsis of yesterday. I just wanted to jump in on your last point before I lost it, because I've been hearing this conversation a lot, and the one question that comes to my mind is, aren't we maybe taking away the fact that South Africans can organize outside of some of these political affiliations without political influence? There were also, conversations and conspiracy theories about there being a third force. Others are pointing at other states like Israel and all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories. Don't you think maybe just for a moment we are taking away a fact and a reality that could also be true, that people just organize because of shared frustrations, which largely, apart from the economy and service delivery failures, which are mainly government's fault, but also illegal migration?
Look, we've been organizing, people have been organizing outside of the mainstream political parties for the last 25 years. I mean, we are the protest capital of the world in the last 10 or 15 years with regards to basic services and a whole range of other things. So there's no doubt that we have a long history of people organizing. But this was something very different. Let's be clear. And the empirical evidence shows that this was something different. First of all, March on March only appeared just late last year. It was a fairly brand new organization. The question is, where did it come from? We know where Operation Dudulo, which appeared about 4 years ago out of the COVID sort of situation, it came out of Soweto in a community sort of defense thing, and then turned into a much more xenophobic kind of organization. But March on March just appeared, and it appeared within a very particular political milieu. It appeared within KZN politics. It appeared within the mobilization of a Zulu ethnic nationalism that was clearly on display. I mean, no one has to have a degree in ethnology or anthropology or political analysis to know and look, if you looked at your screens yesterday, to see what the makeup of the most of those marches were, including in Johannesburg, in relation to the people. So it's not about their right to protest. It's not about the fact that they should have been all banned necessarily simply because we disagree with them. It's about understanding where this comes from. I think the debates around some back force behind that or whatever, we could have those debates, and I think there should be discussions. But what is clear is that the massive amount of resources. I mean, when Jacinta was asked, for example, their crowdfunding, how much they had received, I think they received less than 50,000 Rand. Now, you don't have 40 marches across the country on 50,000 Rand. You don't have 40 marches on the basis of everybody getting there on their own volition, most of whom are coming from very poor communities or hostels or other places. So there's resources. Where do those resources come from? They come from organizations that support them. We had political parties, remember, from late last year, marching with them openly. MK, Action SA, Patriotic Alliance, they have made no apologies, and they don't try to be secret about the fact that this is an agenda that they have supported. So I think we just have to be honest about where this comes from, and it's fine, but as long as we understand that this is where it comes from and not try to pretend that this was some organic uprising of ordinary people, then I think we'll be on the right track.
Where to from here? I think that's a question that I like to ask people like yourselves who work with organizations that are anti-xenophobic, and people like Jacinta as well, is where to from here? Because as I mentioned, these conversations and these actions always seem to rear their ugly heads every couple of years, 2006, 2008, 2012, 2026, and it looks like we don't have a solution for it. It happens, there's these mass demonstrations, uprising, whatever you want to call it. It goes back to allow, we wait a couple of years, another organization comes up, and then it's the same old thing again and again. Can we find a place, a way where we finally get a grip of this issue?
Well, I think, Salella, we've got to discern what issue we're talking about, because my argument, our argument from those of us who have been on the ground opposing these kinds of politics, is that this is not really, for those forces, are really about an immigration debate. This is a political power move. It's about getting support around elections. And what do we see? We always see the xenophobic, anti-migrant can come up with electoral cycles. This is the general pattern that we think. So I think we have to, first of all, understand that. The second thing is that the question has to be asked of March and others, what is exactly do they want? They say until we win. And win what exactly? To win the fact that every single foreign national in this country leaves? It's not going to happen. It's simply both empirically as well as politically impossible for that to happen. So what do they say? All illegal foreigners. Well, then we have to discussion about illegal immigrants. Who is illegal, who's not, who's just undocumented, who's not, why are they undocumented, what's the problems with our immigration system, and so forth. So I think that's the second thing, is we cannot proceed on the basis that simply because people marched and simply because they're intimidating and fearful that they've got a plan, that they somehow have this plan that we're going to get to. But where we have to then have a discussion and where we have to then deal with and why we keep having these problems is because the state has failed. It's ordinary people. It's failed it on many, many counts. Service delivery, the basics of life, job creation. We have people are angry and frustrated, and rightfully so. And that's a very easily politically weaponized thing to do. We've seen it in the United States. We've seen it in Europe. Anti-immigrant politics rises up when people are angry about the political system and they want someone to blame for that. And this is what has happened in this case. So it's about reforming our getting our political system to a point where we have representatives that are serving people. This has been a battle that has been going on for 30 years in our country since 1994, as the gap between the politicians and the political class and ordinary people has gotten wider, and people have become less trustful of their state and less not expecting much. So that gap has to be dealt with. And then secondarily, we have to deal with our immigration system. We have problems. We have a situation where our immigration system is corrupt and mismanaged, and where we have a documentation crisis. I keep saying this, and people seem not to understand that we have over 3 million South Africans that are undocumented. It's not just an issue of foreign nationals. It's not just an issue of so-called illegal immigrants. We have a systemic reform needed within immigration. So that's what we need. We need the parallel things to happen there. And that's not going to happen because March on March marches, as Jacinta said, we'll march every Thursday until we get what we want. Well, what is that? They haven't said exactly what it is that they want. And if they do the rest of the South Africans agree with them? And I think in this case, the media has a responsibility to discern between what appears on social media and who's speaking the loudest in the room and what the realities on the ground are.
Very, very important, Dr. Dale McKinley. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure. And I'm pretty sure we'll be having a lot of these conversations as most importantly, we lead into the 2026 local government elections.
Thank you very much, Salelo.
There we go. Going to take a quick break. News and views will continue after this.